Hello, my name is Michael Garrick, and this is Popping Culture. My guest today is comedian and the host of the. Tell me the name of your podcast, please.
The Sunday Funday podcast. Sunday Funday podcast.
Everybody has a better podcast name than mine. Everybody. Uh, Also, he does a lot of work with the. I went to public school. Can you pronounce the? It's right above him.
Cystic Fibrosis Foundation.
Yes. But yeah, Chris is a hilarious comedian. If you live in North Carolina, South Carolina, definitely check him out. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me. And the name of my podcast is actually a failed venture of mine. I had intended to lead the revolt across the United States of making Charlotte, North Carolina, the Sunday Funday capital of the world. And then somebody released the pandemic, and it never happened. So my podcast name kind of sucks because nothing ever came out of it.
It's always time. Just give it a little time. Yeah, you got it.
That's what they tell me. That's what they tell me. But
Nice.
I appreciate you having me, man. Really happy to be here.
Nice. Man. I'm really happy to have you, man. Like I said, you're one of the funniest people I know, and I mean that genuinely.
I appreciate that, man. You too. I love working with you, man. I love that we've had this renaissance recently with the Charlotte, North Carolina and Greenville, South Carolina crew kind of coming together, do a lot of shows together, traveling back and forth. So it's cool, man. It only makes everybody better and gives you more people to work with, more people to know, more people to, they say iron sharpens iron, right? So it's good to have such a large supporting community. And you guys down there in Greenville, man, are some of the best. I love watching you guys come up.
Nice, man. Yeah. I'm part of the Columbia crew, but yeah, I go to Greenville all the time. So
I met you from Greenville. I categorize you as Greenville. I have my own ignorant way of categorizing people. So you're a Greenville guy. I don't care.
Okay. The topic you chose was charity, and especially we're going to get into yours, the foundation. But before we get into that, whenever I have comedians on, I like to ask them. A lot of people like to focus on bombing, but I'm way more focused on succeeding. So, when was the first time you killed, and how did it feel?
Great question, because this is going to be a super good transition. And for those of you out there listening who are going to think this was predetermined, this is not predetermined. Mike did not know the answer to this question. So that being said, the first time I ever killed it was the first time I ever did stand-up comedy. I know it's going to sound messed up, but the first time I ever did stand-up comedy was at a charity event for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And what they do is, pre-COVID, once a year, the CF Foundation would have a amateur open mic competition called LOL for CFF. And the way it works is they get 4 people who've never done stand-up comedy before in their whole life and convince them to give it a shot and do 5 minutes of comedy. And then the show always has a real comedian as the headliner. And then a previous winner comes back and does 10 minutes if they want. So June of 2019, I was asked if I would be willing to, I started working with the CF Foundation back in 2018. So we'll tie into that later. But June of 2019, I was asked if I would do the stand-up comedy competition, and I said yes. And the way it works is it always raises a lot of money because your friends are always like, I gotta see either my buddy's gonna just bomb in public and I get to harass him for the next 15 to 20 years over the bombing, or it might be pretty fun to see him do comedy. So it draws a lot of people. So that was my first time ever doing stand-up. It ended up being like about a 6-minute set. They don't let you at charity events. So I ended up doing about a 6-minute set. And man, the feeling was incredible. The crowd loved it. I did, objectively did really well. And that feeling was just phenomenal. Like I was up there and you got that first laugh and you felt good. And then about a minute and a half in and everyone's cracking up laughing. I'm like, this is the best feeling I've ever had. And it led to me doing stand-up now for, I'd say pretty much semi-professionally. And the headliner of that show, like I mentioned, there's always a national touring headliner comes and headlines the show, was Todd Riley. So that's how I met Todd Riley, who I'm touring with this summer or spring. So so honest to God, Scout's Honor, the first time I ever did stand-up was crushing. I'll send you the tape. I got it somewhere.
Nice, man. Congrats. Has anything you've done before compared to that feeling?
It's so unique. There's things that, you can say things compare, like The first time somebody ever said yes to me for a date, which was pretty much this almost the same day, 2019. It took a while. Like things like that. But there's no feeling that can actually really compare to that. I tell people all the time, there's nothing that can recreate the feeling of being up there on stage and just knowing that that crowd is yours, and they're just laughing at every single joke, every joke's hitting, every punchline's hitting, and it's just front to back laughter. There's feelings that are as good, but nothing compares. You can't replace that feeling with anything in the world.
It's very addicting. It's very addicting.
Oh, crazy, man. I mean, you know very well that those shows where things are going well, there's nothing that can beat that. There's nothing to beat that.
Exactly. Um, to get into your topic, you chose charity. Um, I would love for you to get into your foundation, man. Please let us know what it does.
Yeah. So the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. So cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease that it affects about 35,000 Americans, and I think about 70 to 80,000 people worldwide. I got to double check my notes on that. But it's hereditary, which is why it tends to affect certain people more often. Um, it's a disease that mainly affects like the lungs and pancreas and stuff like that. But really, the main thing is cystic fibrosis, because it's only affects about 35,000 people in the U.S. It receives no federal funding. So when I moved to Charlotte, I met some people who worked at the foundation. I used to go to charity events with them that were more like social events, and you got to meet people and have fun while raising money. But as I learned more about the disease and the foundation, I said, man, you're like, with all the things going on in the world, with all the money we spend, I'm like, you're telling me that we don't have any federal funding to fight this disease? And I met people who have it, and they're great people, and it kind of was like, man, that's pretty shitty. So I was kind of like, how can I help? And I got involved with an event called Guys and Dolls. They do it every year here in Charlotte. It originally started off as a dating auction, but they've progressed since then, and now it's essentially what you do is you get a group of young professionals, and I'll use the term young and professional loosely because they let me in, but they get a group of young professionals, put together a live auction package, and then on event night, it's a big gala. It's like going to a wedding, but not having to deal with the whole part where somebody gets married. You just get to have the party, and then there's a charity auction gala with all the auction packages and stuff. So that was 2018 when I was started getting involved as a guy with the organization. But they really are. It's an incredible organization. They're across the United States, different chapters. The Charlotte chapter, they do the Guys and Dolls auction gala. Twice a year, they do a 30-mile extreme hike. There's an event called Master Chefs or Oktoberfest. They have a standout young professionals award they give out every year, which I was fortunate enough to receive last year with the organization. But it's just an incredible group of people, and I think the fact that there is that tight knit community of it is a small number of people who have cystic fibrosis, and there is no federal funding for it. So you really feel like you're making an impact when you work with the organization, because it's not like, well, oh, we didn't do so well this year, but that $50 million grant's still coming, so we're good to go. But you really kind of see the impact that your volunteer work has on the organization. And quite frankly, I've gone on and off from having a day job over the last couple of years, depending on with COVID and stuff. But and I pretty much say if I'm not doing comedy or working a day job when I have it, I'm usually have something going on with the CF Foundation.
Nice, nice. Well, man, we really appreciate everything you do, man. That's good to hear, man. It's good to hear that people are definitely putting in the work. And afterwards, please let me know whatever I can do to help. I don't mind at all, like whatever is possible. Um, well, how can other people help? Like just besides that, like is there anything that you know that's someone could like, where they can donate or where they can do other things for to help the foundation?
Yeah, we're always, especially I know in the Charlotte area, especially, but we're nationwide, but we almost always have something going on. COVID's been tough, obviously. So because a lot of our fundraising is from hosting in-person events that people can go to. So we don't do a lot of like, and this is just charity in general. It's tough to like just go online or something like that, be like, hey, give us money. But they'll do things like the Guys and Dolls Gala. will be you buy a ticket to the event, you get to go to the event, you dress up, you have fun, you get booze, and you go. So I think the next event I have coming up is the 30-mile extreme hike. Typically, what would happen is a group of us would go to the Appalachian Trail and hike 30 miles somewhere on the Appalachian Trail, and you'd raise money for that. The kind of deal is, hey, donate money to me for the foundation. I'm going to go hike 30 miles. With COVID, they pivoted a little bit, and they're doing a build your own hike thing. So this year is going to be pretty fun. Actually, I'm doing an urban hike with a group of people, and I'm going to walk 30 miles around Charlotte and then go do a comedy show down in Rock Hill.
Okay.
So
Nice.
I could post a link to the hike page, and if people are interested in donating to the hike, they can donate towards the hike page. Later on this year, I'll do an event called Great Strides. It's another walk around Charlotte. I'll be involved with the standout event later this year. But I can post a link. If you go to cff.org/Charlotte, you can look at all the events they got going on and stuff like that. And if you follow me on Facebook, Chris Diorio, probably 2 to 3 times a week, I'll be posting something about what I have going on. So,
Nice.
but what's been fortunate too as a comedian is I've been able to use some of the avenues I have as a comedian to support the foundation. And it's been, that's kind of my story. And that's why I chose that as my topic for today, because it's been so intertwined, my comedy career and the CF Foundation.
Nice. I hear this a lot. I don't truly believe it, but what do you say to those people that are like, how do we know that money is going into the right places?
Sure. So the foundation itself has a pretty transparent website of, you can track where the money goes and how it's spent and everything like that. As far as the events itself goes, what you do is when you donate to a cystic fibrosis foundation event, I'll have a page set up through the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. So you're not like handing me money and going, hey, I hope this gets to the right place. You'll actually donate directly to a website connected to the foundation. So the money never crosses my hands or the hands of any of the volunteers. It goes directly to the foundation. And then the foundation, they're actually one of the most efficient foundations too. I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I might be misquoted on this, but I'll say I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of 90 to 93 cents, I want to say, of every dollar donated goes directly towards finding treatment and a cure and direct help to people who have cystic fibrosis. I think only 7 to 10% goes to overhead salaries of people in the foundation and stuff like that. But yeah, then it's not one of those things where you go, yeah, send me $100 on Venmo and it's going to go to the place, I promise. There'll be a direct link. Every event has its own link. So I think the current one I'm pushing is either my hike one or my Guys and Dolls one. I don't even know half the time which one I'm pushing, but it'll be something like it's called the Finest Campaigns. So it'll be like www.finest.org/Chris Diorio Guys and Dolls or something like that. But a website will come up and you donate directly to the website, either by donating or some of the events sell tickets. So if you buy a ticket to the event, again, you're going right to the webpage. So majority of the time, the money doesn't even come into my possession. It goes right to the foundation.
Nice. Okay, guys. For anyone that was worried, that's it. Because some people I've talked to about charities, and they immediately bring that up, and it's a weird thing to think. But then, like you can just look up an article, and you'll see like people really do scam people, and it's a sad thing. It's sad that people do stuff like that.
Oh yeah, there's a guy up here in Charlotte. His name's Devon Bailey, and he used to run a company called Eat Work Play. I'm going to call him out publicly here. His name's Devon Bailey. He used to run a company called Eat Work Play that defrauded a bunch of charities up here. So if you know Devon, feel free to hate him for what he did. But no, the foundation's pretty derail that one, yeah. But screw that guy. But yeah, no, the foundation's pretty transparent. The money goes right to a website and stuff like that. But unfortunately, you're right. There are people who do take that avenue of defrauding charities, and those people should have all been on the plane in 9/11. So
I agree. Yes, yes, yes. Um, so this disease, it breaks down like their mobility. I'm trying to think.
uh,
Like, go ahead.
sorry, what is so it's a it mainly affects the lungs and the pancreas, but what it does is it causes a mucus buildup in both the lungs and the pancreas. So with the lungs, you have the obvious problem of breathing,
Yes.
super difficulty breathing. It's you're born with CF. You don't develop it. You're born with it. So kids start getting treatments at a super young age where they have to wear these vests that literally shake their entire bodies to shake the mucus free. So it affects their breathing. They don't they don't develop as fast, obviously, because of the breathing issues. But then with the liver and the pancreas, the other organs, the mucus buildup causes them to not be able to process nutrients as well as you and I. So they have to eat far more calories every day than we do, and a lot of fat, like a high fat diet, just to get in the amount of just for their body to absorb the amount of calories and nutrition that ours do normally. Um, and it's unfortunately, I think back in 20 years ago, the life expectancy was teenage years. But with research from the foundation, it's gotten to the point now where I want to say most people are living into their 40s and 50s. Who have, but yeah, I mean, just generally the mucus buildup is the main thing, but just the years of like the abuse it puts in your body just breaks you down, and especially when you before some of the treatments they have now available, like your body would just never absorb enough nutrition to keep you alive long enough to see the later years in life. Um, when I was, I think it was 2019, they came out with a drug called Trikafta, and it's they call it a miracle drug, but it helps I think 90% of CF patients.
Good,
Um,
good.
and so we're seeing a lot more people living a lot longer now, and that was one of the coolest things. Like I'd been involved in the organization for a couple of years at that point, and seeing that, I guess you could say like comparing something to killing it on stage in stand-up comedy. When they announced that drug coming out, like I legit cheered for for it. So
Nice, nice. That is,
um
it was guys like you that helped make that possible. Like you guys are heroes. Like that's wow. To go from teenage years to people able to see 40. Like 40 still isn't old. I realize that now because I'm 29. But like
yeah.
40 isn't that old, and that's just something that is I almost cried, man. That you guys are real heroes, man. Like it's not that it's important, but like, do you know where they were able to make this? Like, was it America or was it
Yeah, it was
another country?
mostly American labs. I can look it up. I don't remember the name of the exact company that did it, but the drug's called Trikafta. Um, I'm kind of like I'm kind of dumb, so I do my part, and like I'm good. I'm a pretty decent fundraiser and stuff like that, but I leave the smart stuff to the smart people. I just kind of go, oh, you need money? I'll go get you some, and I do. Again, like I'm very fortunate. I've held a lot of the comedy shows I do are for charity. I'll do comedy events for charity quite often, and that's kind of where I come in. I go, what can I, you just point me in the direction you need to point me in, and let me do what I have to do to help you guys out with the fundraising part and the awareness part. I think doing, as I've gone through the comedy stuff and gotten a little bit of success, like today, what we're doing, I've had the chance to use that as a platform to raise awareness. Um, so I'm more on the awareness slash fundraising side than I am the medical side, because I'm just not smart enough to be on that side.
You're very smart, man. If you had to guess the way everything's going now, do you see a time where they do have a cure?
Yeah, man, I think they will. We're working hard towards it, and it's something I hope to see in my lifetime. But if not, I'm hoping like like I have friends now who have kids, friends who have kids now who have CF, and I'm hoping that their kids will be around as a cure. And it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We've seen, especially in the last year, what we can do in medical research if given the right amount of passion and finance behind it, what we can accomplish. So, yeah, I think it can happen. So,
When the media, because I have heard of this, but just not a lot. I can't say I've heard of this a lot. That's why I should have got more prepared. That was my fault. The way the media talks about it, do you think they are kind of like shove it under the rug, or do you think that the media um, talks about it enough that people should know?
For better or worse, it is a good thing that it only affects, relatively speaking, a small percentage of people. So, for better or worse, it gets the attention I think it deserves. In terms of there's things out there that affect more people. And then in terms of like funding and financing, you got to look at like one of the reasons it is so tough to fundraise, or not fundraise for it, but finance it, is a pharmaceutical company is going to look at it like, if I spend billions of dollars, which is to get a drug to market, it costs billions of dollars. If I'm going to spend billions of dollars to get a drug to market that's only going to be purchased by 30,000 people, it's shitty to say, but that's how the world is. So I think it gets the appropriate amount of response, and that's kind of why I do what I do. It's one of the reasons when it kind of hit my heart. I didn't know anybody who had cystic fibrosis before I started volunteering with the organization. For me, that whole plight of not having funding and not having a ton of awareness, I was like, well, this is a mantle that means a lot. Like it became to mean a lot to me, and I said, well, this is my fight now. So, but everybody, there's a lot of things in the world, what I mean? So everybody has to pick your fight, pick the fight you're gonna jump in on, and this is mine. So I know it's not everybody's, but as long as there's a few people out there who are willing to do it, then I think we'll be in good shape.
Nice, nice. When it comes to like you say you put on comedy shows, you put on different events for them, but sticking to the comedy shows, uh, do they come out, the kids or the teenagers that have it, or just for adults?
Well, so one of the crazy other things about the disease, cystic fibrosis, is you can't go within six. It's this is a 6 feet apart thing. You can't go within 6 feet of somebody else who has cystic fibrosis unless you already have gone through like, that person has, there's different mutations to the gene that causes cystic fibrosis. So like when you have events like comedy events or otherwise, usually only one person at the event can and will actually have cystic fibrosis. But I will say, as far as the comedy shows go specifically, I wouldn't have had I don't want to say success. I don't like to say that, but whatever quote unquote success I've had in comedy, I wouldn't be there without the CF Foundation either. Kind of as I mentioned, the first time I ever did stand up was for the CF Foundation, and the event went really well, and I won the amateur competition. And Todd Riley came up to me after the show and said, that was a good set, keep going. So the first couple of shows, well, not the first couple, but especially the first couple of shows I had, about a month later, I kind of put it out there on Facebook. I said, hey, I did, a lot of you guys know I did stand up for the first time a couple weeks ago. I decided to give it another shot. I'm going to do another show. So I think I was at a brewery, and you've done a lot of these shows. Like I went to some brewery show here in Charlotte, and there was 50 people in that brewery, which, as you know, isn't bad for a brewery show. And I think 45 of them came to see me. And out of that 45, I think 40 of them were people I knew through the CF Foundation.
Nice. Okay.
So they've been super. I mean, from day one, they've been, super supportive of me, to the point where, like, I really give them credit for, they would show up to my shows, and it got to the point where I was early on in my comedy career, I was getting bookings that I probably didn't deserve, but kind of word got around that, like, hey man, Chris Diorio draws people. Like, so they were like, hey, I come to my show, man. And bring your friends. And mainly most of my friends are either involved with the CF Foundation, or I met them in one way, shape, or form from the CF Foundation. So I think early on, it allowed me to do more shows than somebody with my level of talent at the time should have been able to do, which allowed me to continue to develop myself as a comedian. Then it got to the point where I was able to kind of pay them back, where I would have, last summer, for example, I was able to secure an outdoor socially distanced venue. And we had about 110 people there. and I headlined the show, and we sold out that show in a week, and was able to
Nice.
donate over $1,000 to the foundation. We've got a couple of shows like that where now I've fortunately had some success. I've fostered a quote unquote real fan base where I can put myself on a flyer, sell at a show, and donate the money to the CF Foundation. So
Well, congratulations, sir. That I am trying my best to get a following like that. I mean, I'm glad you got it for a good reason. Um, it's definitely like they say, if you do good, you get good things, and you're definitely an example of that. One quick question though, going back to when you say you got bookings that you didn't deserve. It's happened to me a few times when I started. But you ever got that booking where there's like, we need you to do 15, and you know you didn't have 15, but you did it?
oh yeah, 100%, 100%. I didn't say no to anything, and there's always which can be a double edged sword. Sometimes you do it and you're like, well, I was able to do it. Sometimes it doesn't go so well. It can depend on the venue. But yeah, it happened all the time. It happened all the time. But I
That's
think
what I
again,
learned. Not
I was fortunate enough that I had enough of a safety net because it was again my CF people, my friends that I met were coming out to see me. So if I did get, hey man, can you do 15 on this feature spot at the show? I said, sure, can. And I'm like, I probably got 15, but I was very lucky that I have enough people in the audience who, even if I shit the bed, which I did several times, um, they'd be like, you're good. I'm like, no, I wasn't. Like, oh no, you're great. We'll be back. So, again, like I said, I had a safety net while I was developing. And I'm still developing, obviously, still developing a lot, but in
you're
the
ahead
real
of a lot of
early,
people.
well, in the real early times when you're kind of finding who you are on stage, and I think that's the biggest thing is where you're trying to find you really, your style, who you are on stage, your way of writing jokes and delivering them, and um, being comfortable on stage. I had that safety net of knowing like, even if I suck, my friends are all here, so they're not going to let me fail completely. And now I've moved out of that cocoon, so to speak. I've left the womb, um, and had some success, in various places when I had none of my friends there. But originally, yeah, had they not been there, I probably would have eaten a lot of shit that I didn't have to eat. So
Yeah, those shows made me understand don't walk on your laughs.
yeah,
Because I would tell a joke and wait 5 seconds before I say anything else. I'm like, keep laughing. I got 14 and 90, 14 and 50 seconds left. This is yes.
well, and the community, you guys down there in Columbia and Greenville, there's so many great comics down there, and up here in Charlotte, there's so many. You also have a very good supportive community too, though. I think people sometimes on the outside they think stand-up comedy must be this like cutthroat dog eat dog world, but really, I think if you're a fine example of this, if you're just generally a good person and you're trying, you're putting the work in, someone's going to kind of help you along. And even if you have a bad show, if you have a bad show, generally I found the sentiment's not like, this guy sucks, get him out of here. It's more like, hey, you have some you had some seeds planted there that are going to grow into really good jokes. Here's how you can do that, and they help you along and try to bring each other up. So
Yeah. And then you got the times where the whole show, everybody's like, yeah, I don't think this crowd came for comedy. Like this, like this is tough.
oh yeah. We just did one recently together, you and I, and and it is what it is. It's like going to the gym though. Sometimes you go to the gym and the equipment's broken, and you got to do push-ups instead of deadlifts or whatever, and you adapt, adjust, and overcome. But
Yeah, it definitely keeps you humble. It makes you appreciate great shows.
oh yeah. It's such a I enjoy the game. It's a game. There's almost gamesmanship to it. And I enjoy that whole you walk into like a bar or something like that with this show and you have no idea what you're walking into. And you get there and you got to think like, how am I gonna win this crowd as best as I can? And sometimes you can't, but and then sometimes like the show we're talking about, remember my mic cut off.
Yeah, it cut off on me too a few times too. But yeah, for you, you had the great idea of yelling, which I think we all should did. We should all just started yelling. Like they heard us, you know.
I didn't even think of it. Well, the mic died completely towards the end of my set.
Oh,
And I'm like, well, screwed, I'm yelling now. And I started, and so somehow the best 2 minutes of my set was the 2 minutes I was just yelling across the bar like a maniac. and I had no idea that was going to happen, and it went well. But yeah, so it's fun, and that's the advantage to it. But
No, you killed, bro. That you when you did that, you went full Jeff Ross. I was like, I love this. Like you got oh,
it was fun, man.
oh. But yeah, man, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for telling us about the foundation. Is there anything you would like to say to your fans?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I've had such tremendous support throughout my career, if you want to call it that. Um, any success I have, I wouldn't have had if it had not been the people who were there with me in the trenches in the beginning. And hopefully, if something ever does come of this, I'll be able to pay you guys back with tickets to some tapings or something. So,
Nice,
but yeah,
nice.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Uh, let them know where they can follow you on social media.
Sure. Chris Diorio Comedy on Facebook. Instagram is Chris Diorio Comedy, all one word. My last name is spelled Diorio. So it's Chris Diorio Comedy. Last name is spelled Diorio. I'm currently on Twitter, kind of technically at C Diorio Comedy, but I got my shout out to my beautiful girlfriend too. She's a blessing, and she's helping me redesign my whole social media thing. She's way smarter than I am. So, but yeah, Chris Diorio Comedy, pretty much find me anywhere there. And then cff.org/Charlotte is where you find more about the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation.
Nice, nice, nice. Well, man, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you guys for listening, and have an amazing day.